Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to use the Data247 API. Data247 has a single REST-based API which works for all of our data services. It's easy to use and yet very powerful, allowing you to access multiple Data247 services in a single API call. The documentation for the API can be found under Support, API Documentation. Here you can find a basic introduction to the general API format and a detailed description of each service with its query and response parameters. So let's go over the basic format of the Data247 API. There are 6 main parts to an API query. The URL remains the same for all queries. It's https api.data247.com/version 3.0. Next is the key parameter. Each API user has their own unique API key which identifies them and is required part of the API request. So let's quickly take a look at how to generate an API key. So log into your account. And select API key password from the account menu. So all you have to do to create an API key is to enter an optional description and then press the Generate API Key button. So this would be what you would enter for the key parameter. And for security purposes, once you navigate away from this page, you will not be able to retrieve this key. So make sure you store it somewhere safe. This page allows you to create as many keys as you like and remove them as needed. So let's go back and look at the other parameters that we need. The API parameter identifies the particular API data service or services you wish to use. Data247 offers many different data services, and each has their own service code. In this example, MT stands for our TechStat service, and AP stands for our Append 24/7 phone service. If you would like to query multiple services in one API call, you can separate each service code with commas as shown here. Next is the input data parameters. For each Data247 service, you provide input data and we reply with a response based on your input. The input parameters will vary for each service. For example, TechStat requires one input, which is phone number, while Append 24/7 phone requires multiple inputs, such as first name, last name, and address. Next are field specifiers, which are optional. There are 2 types of field specifiers, fields and add fields. The fields parameter specifies all data fields to be returned by the query, and the add fields parameter specifies which optional fields should be returned alongside the standard return fields. In both cases, the fields should be separated by commas. If omitted, only the standard data fields will be returned. In this example, you can see that the add fields parameter is being used to add last port date in addition to the other standard data fields. Last is the out parameter. This tells the query which response format it should use. So formats include XML, JSON, YAML, TOML, message pack, or CSV. The response format specifier is optional. If omitted, JSON format will be returned by default. So one of the nice things about the Data247 API is that it is HTTP based, which means you can actually test the API by pasting an API call directly into your web browser. So let's try this out. So here is an example API call for our TechStat service. You can see it is using the code MT for TechStat, and here I have pasted in my API key for the key parameter. So you can see by default it returns a JSON response showing the phone number, whether the phone was wireless, the carrier name, carrier ID, and the SMS and MMS addresses. So now let's return an optional field. To find out what optional fields are available, let's look in the documentation. So let's click on Carrier 247 USA and TechStat. And if you scroll down, you can see all of the optional return fields. So let's choose type, which will tell us whether the phone is landline, mobile, or VoIP. Let's also change the output to XML. So when I press enter, you can see that type is now displayed along with all the other standard outputs, and it is in XML format. Many of our services allow you to do multiple queries in a single API call. For TechStat, you can add multiple phone numbers at once by using the P parameter, P1, P2, P3, etc. So let's add an additional phone number here and view the results. So here are the results now for the two different phone numbers that we added. And using this method, up to 99 phone numbers may be specified in a single API call. There is a second method for doing multiple queries in a single API call, which works for all API services. You may call the API as an HTTPS post, and instead of adding the input data as URL parameters, they may instead be posted as a JSON format document. You can view the documentation on the website for further details about this method. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to get started using the Data247 API. And once you're ready, you can return to the documentation to view integration examples in the programming language of your choice, so you can integrate the API into your existing source code. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to open a help desk ticket and we will help you out. Thanks for watching.